Fantastic. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I want to appreciate Elias Omondi and that wonderful, wonderful panel. Thank you so much for keeping us engaged and taking us through the safari. It's all a journey, and we have learned so much from that. So thank you so much, Elias. We totally appreciate you, and hand on heart, we also appreciate the lovely panel. We know that this COVID-19 has definitely had an impact in our lives, and it has changed the game forever. We have seen virtual platforms coming up. We've seen OEMs definitely rising up and taking advantage of this particular pandemic. And we know that definitely there are people who have been adversely affected by it. And we want to have a discussion on the impacts and insights of COVID-19 in microinsurance. How has it affected the microinsurance sector? And to take us through this particular discussion, this is the Executive Vice President for MicroInsurance Company. This is none other than Richard Leftley. So take it over, Richard, and guide us on how this particular discussion is going to go ahead. Thank you so much, and we look forward to a very engaging and informative discussion. Over to you, Richard. Take it over from here. Thank you.
Hi, it's great to be with you today. Thank you for having me. My name is Richard Leftley. I'm formerly the founder of MicroEnsure, and now I'm the EVP International for the MicroInsurance Company. It's great to be with you today. Sorry I can't be there in person, but I've been asked to share a little bit more about the work we've been doing and how it's been affected by the pandemic, how we're seeing the pandemic affecting insurance for the mass market in the emerging countries. So I'm going to be running through some slides today. First off, just to kind of give you a little bit of background as to who is the MicroInsurance Company. I'm sure you may have heard of MicroInsure, but the MicroInsurance Company is maybe new. So a MicroInsurance Company was created on the 1st of July. It was a merger between MicroEnsure, which is a specialist in creating and selling insurance for the mass market, STP, which is a reinsurance company. So we're now a underwriting group as well as a broker, and Tonka BI, which is a AI specialist. It's an IT company based in India that does a lot with artificial intelligence, machine learning, and using that to be able to verify claims. So we're using the AI in order to verify whether claims are payable or not. We have over 20 years of experience of designing insurance products, and we are serving about 60 million customers in Africa and in Asia. So when COVID hit, we were quite terrified initially as an organization, but we soon realized that it was going to have really unexpected benefits also for our business. So we distribute our insurance through microfinance organizations and banks, but also through mobile network operators and increasingly these ride-hailing companies. And what we discovered was that the microfinance organizations and banks were very badly affected because the loans, they couldn't recover the loans from people who during lockdown weren't able to function. But the mobile phone companies, people were still using their mobile phones, and the ride-hailing companies as well. And so I've given you here some screenshots of the various products that we launched in Pakistan. Now, I know Pakistan is not Kenya, but actually as an emerging market, there's lessons that we can learn from it. So we actually launched we took the opportunity, I guess, as an insurance company to see that COVID was a fantastic opportunity to increase sales. So we worked with our partners. One of our partners is Kareem. This is Uber. It's a ride-hailing company. And we discovered that a lot of the drivers were beginning to leave Kareem, were beginning to leave Uber because they had no work to do during lockdown. And as a result, we started to introduce health insurance. And what we discovered was that those drivers that had health insurance were much more likely to remain with Uber. And of course, that was very important to Uber because when the lockdown came to an end, then they still needed drivers. Similarly, we introduced tele-doc services. These are kind of services where you can phone a doctor. And we launched these with many of the mobile phone companies and the banks that we were working with. It's interesting to see the impact of COVID on demand. So as a business, we've been selling insurance to clients who traditionally haven't bought insurance. These are the like 97% of people who wake up most days and say, I've never had insurance before, why should I buy it? So 80% of our clients have in fact never had insurance before. You know, of course, in the past, we've tried to have a digital approach. So we've tried to use digital approaches like sending out SMSs. So we send out 1 million SMSs to people saying, hey, would you like to have insurance? And the reason that we've done it is because it's incredibly cheap. But we found that actually only about 0.5% of people that you send an SMS to will actually sign up to insurance. So that's why we've been using kind of call centers, because our success rates with a call center, which is much more expensive way of selling, has been much higher. But what we found interestingly during the COVID crisis was that as COVID started to hit the newsstands, as people started to hear about this COVID thing in March time, April time, was that we found that actually the SMS blasts and the USSD self-registrations started to become much more productive. So initially this jumped from 0.5% to nearly 1.5%. And by the height of the pandemic, we were seeing somewhere between 3 to 4% of clients who received an SMS actually self-registering, coming forward and buying insurance. And interestingly, we also at the time introduced this teledoc, you know, this ability to phone a doctor and ask your questions. But in reality, very few people actually used this service. What we also found during this time was that insurers really became very concerned about COVID. You know, so most of the insurers that we were working with became almost terrified by this idea, you know, that insurance should be covering this pandemic. Luckily, as MicroEnsure, over the years, we had actually removed many of the exclusions, and so to the surprise of many of the insurers, we were actually already covering COVID in our core products. You know, actually over the course of the pandemic now, it's been running for many months. We have 60 million customers around the world, and yet we've only paid about 4 or 5 claims which listed COVID as being a source of either hospitalization, because we do health insurance, or death. So it's a very, very low number of people that have actually been affected. And of course, many people, you know, many people on this presentation will think, okay, maybe it doesn't say COVID on the death certificate. Maybe it doesn't say COVID on the hospitalization, but surely there must have been an increase in claims. But actually, there hasn't been. We haven't seen an increase in claims, even for non-COVID items. So it's been very interesting that actually COVID, of course, must have caused some claims to happen, but it really hasn't driven up the loss ratios in the mass market. And what we've started to see is a bit of a kind of a change between the local insurers, who seem to be fairly relaxed about this idea of covering COVID, and the global insurers, who seem to be completely in panic. So I think this is a fantastic opportunity for those local insurers who can be a bit more dynamic and be a little bit more thinking ahead and look at the numbers for what they are. The numbers don't suggest that the claims are going to rise significantly. Okay, so what happens next? Well, it's interesting for us because whilst we've seen this increase in take-up of insurance, whilst we've seen this increase in productivity of the sales channel as a result of COVID, interestingly, we've also seen a reduction in the amount of premium which is actually being collected. So what we saw was that as the pandemic hit, more and more people were willing to buy insurance for the first time, and often they were willing to self-register through digital channels. But actually, as the lockdown hit, as the economy slowed down, especially in the emerging sector where we're dealing with low-income, self-employed people, many of them didn't have any money. So we actually, normally we're billing from their mobile wallet or from their airtime balance. Actually collecting small amounts of money from their airtime every day. And if they don't have any airtime because they don't have any money, you can't collect anything. And so what we started to see was, even though we were signing up more people, during lockdown, we're actually able to collect less money from people. So this was a really big challenge for us. And what we have seen since the first lockdown, and now as we're entering the second lockdown, is that people are much more open to the idea of buying insurance. So 97% of people in Kenya have never had insurance before, and now they're very open, or much more open, to the idea of taking insurance because they understand that their health could be affected, or in the worst case, maybe their life could be affected, and so people are willing to buy, and we should see this as an opportunity to sell to them. One of the big issues is that, especially for us, is how we can raise capital quickly enough. So, we've transitioned from being an insurance broker to being an insurance company. And what we found is that actually, it's been important to raise capital in order to be able to continue to underwrite these products and to take things forward. I think we're excited that actually soon we're going to have a big announcement for the microinsurance company about how we can set ourselves up to actually underwrite a business in East Africa, not just outside of East Africa. So I hope this has been of interest to you. If you do have more information, or you want more information, please do get in touch with me either on LinkedIn or through my email, richard@microinsurance.com. It's been great to be with you today, and thank you for sparing your time. If you do have any questions, please do get in touch. Thank you.